$200 billion. Not 200 million, 200 billion. That's what Pete Hegseth just walked into the Pentagon and asked for. And if you think this is just a budget line, you haven't been paying attention. Let's put that number in context. $200 billion is more than the entire annual GDP of New Zealand. It's more than America spent in the first 3 years of the Iraq War. And they're asking for it right now in a single request because the United States has already burned through its missile stockpiles, its munitions reserves, and a significant chunk of its air power in just weeks of strikes on Iran. Read that again? Weeks? And here's the line Pete Hegseth actually said, the one they're hoping you'll scroll past. It takes money to kill bad guys. That's it. That's the justification. 11 words for $200 billion of your money. Now let's talk about what this money actually buys, because it's not what they're telling you. Yes, some of it restocks missiles, some of it rebuilds munitions factories running at full capacity for the first time since the Cold War. Some of it funds the contractors, Raytheon, Lockheed, Boeing, whose stock prices have been climbing every single week since this conflict began. But here's what the budget request really is. It's an admission. An admission that this war was not planned to end quickly. An admission that the targeted strike narrative is dead. An admission that the United States is now locked into a conflict with no exit ramp, no defined victory condition, and no timeline. And this is where history gets loud. Because we've been here before. In 2003, the Bush administration told Congress the Iraq War would cost $50 to $60 billion. Total. Quick in, quick out, mission accomplished. The final bill, over $2 trillion, 20 years, and Iraq never became the stable democracy they promised. In Libya, the intervention was supposed to take days. The country is still fractured 15 years later. In Afghanistan, 20 years, $2 trillion, and the Taliban walked back into Kabul within weeks of the U.S. leaving. The pattern is not a coincidence, it's a business model. So what makes Iran different? Iran is not Iraq. This is not a weakened state with a broken military. Iran has the most sophisticated missile arsenal in the Middle East. It has proxies in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Iraq, in Syria, a network built over 40 years specifically to fight a war of attrition against American power. They don't need to win on the battlefield. They just need to not lose, and not losing against the United States for Iran looks exactly like what's happening right now. Every week this drags on, Iran gains negotiating leverage. Every billion America spends, Iran points to as proof of empire overreach. Every civilian casualty becomes a recruiting poster for the next generation of resistance. Now let's talk about the economic reality, because this is the part that doesn't make the headlines. The United States national debt just crossed $36 trillion. Interest payments alone on that debt are now the single largest line item in the federal budget. Bigger than Medicare, bigger than defense, bigger than Social Security. And into that reality, Congress is being asked to approve another $200 billion. Where does that money come from? It gets borrowed, it gets added to the debt, it gets paid back with interest by your kids and their kids at rates that haven't been this high in 20 years. Meanwhile, domestic infrastructure is crumbling. Healthcare costs are breaking families. Education funding is being cut in state after state. $200 billion could rebuild every bridge in America rated structurally deficient. It could fund free community college for an entire generation. It could wipe out medical debt for every American who has it. Instead, it's a budget request for a war with no end date. Here's the strategic trap that no one in Washington wants to say out loud. To justify $200 billion, you need a victory. A real one. Not just, we degraded their capabilities, you need regime change. You need a new government in Tehran that is friendly to the West, that abandons the nuclear program, that dismantles the proxy network. But regime change in Iran, a country of 90 million people, with a deep sense of national identity, with a revolutionary guard that controls major parts of the economy, is not a military objective, it's a fantasy. And if you can't achieve it, which history says you can't, not through bombs alone, then you're stuck. You've spent $200 billion. You've taken casualties. You've destabilized oil markets. You've given China and Russia a front-row seat to watch American power erode in real time. And you have nothing to show for it except a longer war that needs another $200 billion next year. So here's the real question Congress needs to answer, and the question you should be asking right now. Is this $200 billion the price of security? Or is it the first payment on a debt we cannot afford, financial, military, and moral, for a war that will cost far more than anyone is telling you? Because the most dangerous thing about a blank check is not what it buys. It's that once you write it, you're committed. And commitment in the Middle East has a way of becoming forever. This is the story they don't want trending. Share it if you think people need to hear it. Follow for the analysis they're not giving you on the 6 o'clock.